Hello, and welcome to podcast 4, which I'm going to call the Tosh Experience. Because that is a question I get from a lot of people. What was it like to be on the Tosh show? Well, one of the producers contacted me 12 months ago, and I'm pretty easy to reach either on Instagram or YouTube. He mentioned that him and Daniel had seen my channel, they liked my work, and so they wanted me to come down and be on their Comedy Central show. And I think I mentioned I was flattered. I'd seen Daniel's work. I was really impressed with it, thought it was funny, but I had to decline. And there were a few reasons I said no. One is that my YouTube channel was pretty much a secret at work, and I figured what folks don't know won't hurt them or me. But the main reason is that my YouTube channel was quite small, 6,500 subscribers. It's still pretty small today, too. And the comedy show is about making fun of YouTubers and YouTube channels. And I didn't want my channel to fall into disrepute, end up like a laughing stock. Not that I don't mind being made fun of personally. I've got a pretty thick skin, so it doesn't bother me. So yeah, I was like, no. Anyways, their producer was persistent. He worked on me for the next 9 months. Not overtly. He would contact me and be like, hey, check out this new soap I'm using. He'd send me an Instagram picture. We would have a little conversation. And then at the end of the conversation, he would kind of insert, oh, and by the way, do you still want to be on our show, perhaps? And I would keep saying, no, thank you, until my vacation rolled around. And so this worked out well for them and for me. Their season was wrapping up, and I became far more malleable. I had plenty of time on my vacation, and my views changed a little bit. I realized once I hit 2 million video views that sooner or later my coworkers would just randomly come across my YouTube channel. That cat would come out of the bag. Also, I did want to sort of increase my subscriber count and my video views from the year before, just take my channel as far as it could go. And I figured maybe rolling the dice on a broadcast production wouldn't hurt. I had 2 weeks notice before they were going to fly me out to LA. So that was good. I went on an immediate crash diet where I tried to lose as much weight as I could. Well, I'm not the best at weight loss, nor am I the best at eating healthy. But knowing you're going to be on TV in front of millions of people certainly helps as a motivator. So I ended up losing 8 pounds. I was pretty impressed by that. And then the day comes, they fly me to LA. One of their production assistants picks me up, takes me to the hotel. They took care of the hotel, the room, the boarding, and all that stuff. And then she mentioned what it's like to meet Tosh, told me a little bit about the other guests, and just all the questions I had. She answered everything, put me at ease. I get into the hotel. I have dinner. I'm going to go to bed pretty early. But before I lay down, I open up sort of the grab bag they give me. There's a Tosh shirt in it. There's a DVD of Tosh's stand-up routine. And then there's a chocolate bar and a bag of chocolate cookies. And don't doubt for a second that I didn't like stuff every bit of that chocolate goodness into my mouth, because I hadn't had anything sweet in like 2 weeks. Go to bed, wake up at the crack of dawn the next morning. She picks me up, takes me down to their studio, which is big and impressive. Walk over to the guest room that they have set aside for me, put my stuff down, and then I'm like, look, I've got to have coffee. I cannot function unless I have coffee in the morning. So she takes me over to this next room where they have a buffet table, and it's like something out of The Hobbit. They've got every breakfast food item you can even imagine nor want. I just start piling all this stuff onto my plate and grab a coffee, grab an orange, go back to my guest room. I sit down at the conference table. I manage about 2 bites of the breakfast burrito, and then another producer walks in. He's like, good morning, Marvin. We've got to get you started on the paperwork. You're going to be meeting a ton of people. If you don't remember our names, don't worry about it. And so folks just start sitting down at the table with me. They're talking to me. Obviously, you can't talk to people while you're eating food at the same time. So that was the end of my breakfast, but I did at least get the coffee. We got through all the contractual stuff. And I always think, if you're watching this and you ever sign a contract, make sure you read a contract. I was kind of surprised. They were telling me not all of their guests actually take the time to read through what they're signing. So just, if you're going to put your John Hancock to something, you really need to know what it is. We got done with that. Then wardrobe comes in, and unfortunately, I'd given her my measurements before I went on the diet, so I actually went down to pant size, and the bathing suit they had for me it was a brand new bathing suit. I would have scored one, but it didn't fit. So I ended up using one of the bathing suits that I had from home. It worked out well. I'm glad I brought it, and it looked pretty similar to what they had for me. Anyways, she leaves. Then another woman comes in. She's just bringing bag after bag after bag of makeup. Like she is literally a roving Sephora. And she points to me at the chair. She's like, all right, sit down. We're going to do your makeup. And I was kind of curious as to how this was going to go. I've never had makeup done in my life before. She was really cool, though. I was sort of honored to have her do my makeup. She's done a lot of celebrities. She was telling me about how she'll do volunteer work for children, like sick kids. And she even mentioned her coolest photo shoot where they flew her on a helicopter out to an aircraft carrier to do makeup. So I'm sitting in the chair. She mentioned that I had really good skin, so they didn't need to do a lot for my face. She picked out my skin tone, and then she just spent like a minute spray painting my face with makeup. And then she trimmed my eyebrows. And I'm glad she remembered to do that because my eyebrows go everywhere, as I'm sure many of you have seen in my YouTube video reviews. Also, she pumped up my self-confidence. Like I was really ready to go after that. I'm like, let's do this. Then the PA comes, gets me, takes me into the main room, which is just full of lights, cameras, microphones, crew, people, just a bustle of activity. And I get to see the set that we're going to be in. It is that Hampton Inn, and they did a really good job with the set design. I honestly think that if I was ever going to work in Hollywood, that's something I would want to do because it looks like a ton of creative fun trying to match every detail that you might find in these other real life places. They had phenomenal lighting. The cameras were thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment along with the microphones. Although standing in front of the hot tub, which was bubbling, and looking at the microphone dangling over it, I really didn't think the audio was going to work. Anytime I've tried to do video near running water, it's always been washed out. So I really thought it wasn't going to work. But apparently, if you have expensive enough microphones, anything is possible. Daniel walks over, and I was surprised. I didn't think he was my height, but he was 6'5", so he's pretty tall for a television personality. Shakes my hand, we chat for a second, he tells me how things are going to go. Then we move to sit in the hot tub, and the first thing I noticed was that it was like super slippery. And I was just praying, don't slip into the hot tub, because there's all these people behind cameras, you have the sound people, there are folks off to the side, sitting in chairs, watching this stuff real time on a television. I managed it without embarrassing myself. And then also at that minute, that's when I realized it wasn't an actual hot tub. It was a mild tub. What they would do between takes is they would come with hot water, buckets of it, and just pour it into the hot tub. So at least we weren't cold, which would have really sucked. Really, they had a few staged questions for Daniel to ask. I had no clue what they were going to be. And he asked me a few things like, what's the difference between a triple milled soap and a French triple milled soap? Pretty boring. They cut that. It was a 45-minute shoot. Oh, and also we played footsie for like the first 20 seconds. So how many people can claim they've played footsie with Daniel Tosh? Because we both have really long legs, and so we had to find our positioning. That quick rapid fire soap review, that took 10 minutes. It was awful. It did not go well. My hands were all soapy. I had difficulty opening some of the other soaps in plastic packaging. It was ugly, but they did a really phenomenal job with the editing. They could have made me look really bad, but they honestly chose to make me look good, because there were other segments where I was stumbling or maybe saying the wrong thing, and they fixed all of it. So they really got the intent of what I meant to say across. And so I will forever be grateful for the people who audited the audio and the video on that show. One thing, that reaction from Daniel when I was pumping that hand soap, the Aesop bottle, is that was a real reaction. And I know because I had sort of looked into his eyes and you could see the annoyance. And just for a second, I had a thought of like quickly pumping even more into the hot tub. But then I thought maybe not best to push that string. And we even had like a little debate about how expensive that stuff was. And one of the cast members Googled it, and it was $40 a bottle. So you have to remember, for someone like myself, I've lost all connection to the price of bar soaps and body washes. It just literally doesn't even mean anything anymore to me. You could give me a $100 bottle of body wash, and I'll use it just about the same as I would a $5 bottle of body wash. But yeah, you could tell Daniel still felt that financial pain, I guess you could say, which was kind of funny for me. And then once we were done in the hot tub, they immediately drained it once we stepped out of it. So they weren't wasting time on that set. Then we go over to the green room, and the green screen was massive. It was just the biggest green screen room I've ever laid eyes on in my life. The seahorse was actually elevated about a floor and a half. So I had to climb up on a ladder, and then I wasn't actually sitting on the seahorse. I was actually straddling it, because that thing's pretty old. Apparently it was from one of the Back to the Future movies, the one where they're in the prom, and it's repainted. In the movie, I guess it was aqua. So there's a little bit of movie trivia for you right there. We do the shoot. I get done with the green screen section. I come down, and they're like, you're welcome to watch the rest of the proceedings. So I sit behind the TV, which is also behind the cameras. Daniel's sort of directing. Carrot Top comes up and he gets on the green screen, does his thing, and then Daniel's kind of directing him. They're having a good time. You can tell they enjoy each other's company. Then Carrot Top comes down and I get to talk to him, which was really cool. So I talked to him for like a few minutes. Always wanted to meet Carrot Top. Nice guy. Even got a picture with him that I'm not going to show you because you don't realize it until you're standing next to Carrot Top, who is 100% muscle. You can feel both skinny and yet flabby at the same time, especially in his little American G-string that he's got going on. But that was really awesome meeting Carrot Top. I've always sort of enjoyed what I've seen of his work. I've watched late night comedy shows over the years, and he's just got unique, innovative comedy that you don't see with anyone else. So if I'm ever in Vegas, I definitely want to check out his show. And obviously, too, I would pop by Tosh's comedy routine as well. So after that was wrapped up, I ended up going back to the guest room. I started to gather up my belongings. I had a bunch of soaps that I brought with me. I wasn't sure if we'd end up using them. Didn't. So I gave a bunch of soaps to the crew members. Hopefully I made some converts to different types of soaps that day. I'll never know, but one can still hope. And then I'm sitting in the foyer. I've got 2 hours to kill before my flight leaves. My PA was talking to me and she's like, hey, if you want to join us real fast to have lunch, as soon as I get done here, I'll grab you and bring you into the buffet line. And so I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. While I'm sitting there, Tosh is actually still working. He's coming and going, flurry of activity. He sees me sitting there. He's like, hey, Marvin, what are you up to? I'm like, oh, I'm just waiting for the PA to come get me, and then I'm going to join you guys for lunch. He's like, no, you come join us right now. And me trying to be the overly polite individual that I am, I'm like, no, you just do your thing, and I'll wait till she gets me. Then 30 seconds after he leaves the room, I realized, well, it is his show. If he says I can join him now, it's not a big deal. So I get up, I walk over to the lunch buffet, and he was actually in the process of calling the PA to come get me on the mic. So I take my space at the back of the line like a normal human being would, when Daniel walks up, sort of grabs me by the elbow and says, hey, you're our guest here, so you're going to come to the front of the line. Walks me over there. As I'm gathering food for my plate, he's talking to me the whole time. Also, the very nice writer behind me was also chatting with me. I get my food, which was absolutely delicious. Like, I cannot stress how well these people eat. Like, that is just a huge perk of all this, like the food. Anyways, I get done eating, and then it's time to go back home. So they fly me home. They mention that I'm going to air at some point before the end of the year, but I didn't know when. They contacted me the day before, and I was kind of relieved because I was both stressing and I was dreadful and excited. I had no idea what the final edit was going to be, and I realized it could have gone quite badly. Some of the sections just didn't work out from my perspective. Anyways, I'm at work, and so that was, when it came on TV, I was just at work, and that's how it was. But luckily at my workplace, we have cable, so not a big deal. For me, the dilemma was, do I want to go into the break room and turn this on and watch it, even though I'm on TV? Because if I do, all of my coworkers will know. And I was rather naive. I really believed that perhaps none of my coworkers would catch the Tosh show. Because I really hadn't told anyone except for just a very select handful of people that I'd even remember to mention that I was on the Tosh show. Luckily, it dropped on YouTube first, so I thought, oh, I don't have to watch it in the break room. No one will ever know. An hour after that segment with me and Daniel went on YouTube, one of my coworkers contacted another friend of mine who works with me, and then he contacted me over the phone because I'd totally forgotten to even mention to him that I had appeared on the Tosh show. And he's like, man, did you see you were on the Tosh show? I'm like, yeah. And then at that minute, I realized the cat was out of the bag. He was a little worried how that might affect my career, and I wasn't sure how that was going to play out either. Although, apparently it played out really well. I got nothing but positive feedback from my coworkers, and people know me. If they thought it was shitty, they would have just said it to my face. And for 2 weeks, I was the most popular guy at work. People said I held my own. They were like, you did a great job. Another guy was like, man, you're going to monetize your YouTube channel. One of my coworkers even wanted a picture with me because his 12-year-old son is a big fan of Tosh, and he thought it was just the coolest thing ever that his dad worked with someone who was on the Tosh show. So my grandmother, who I didn't know actually watched the Tosh show live, I guess from time to time, she does watch Tosh. Sorry if I'm slurring a little bit. I'm kind of tired. This is like the 10th take. And so she was pretty proud of me. That made me happy that she wasn't like cross that I, was on the show. And when I watched it, my initial reaction in the beginning was kind of shock. It was like being punched in the gut when he mentioned my first and last name, because I've always sort of been a private person, but I did know going into this that that certainly was a possibility of something that could happen. But what made up for that was the fact that he asked me during the interview portion, like, hey, what are some of your hobbies? And I get to say national debt crisis on broadcast TV. And that's something I'm super, super enthusiastic about. Any chance I can to raise awareness about that issue always makes it worth it for me. So at the end of the day, I'm happy I get to go and be on the show. It was certainly a fun experience. And I probably should mention too, there was some financial compensation, certainly nothing that would make a person rich, but if you had to miss a day or two of work, it wouldn't be a big deal. So going in, I thought maybe they wouldn't be professional. I figured these people might be coming in stoned, or maybe they start at 10 in the afternoon and, Daniel's going to walk in drunk. But no, all of these people were polite and professional. So that definitely raised my opinion of what goes on in Hollywood. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed my experience. If I ever had to be on broadcast TV, I think I'd probably do a better job. And at least I would feel comfortable doing something like that again in the future. So there you have it. That was my experience. Hope I didn't bore you to death. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time.